What's going on, college hoops heads? This is another edition of the One and Done podcast. This is a one-on-one with One and Done. We are here with Ivy League Player of the Year, Princeton forward Caden Pierce. As you guys see, John is currently not in here with the hurricane going on. It's coming north, so it's towards North Carolina at this point. So he's supposed to be here. I don't know if he lost power, but nonetheless, I am here again with Caden Pierce from Princeton University. Caden, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing well. Again, we appreciate you coming on. I recently wrote a Princeton season preview article, basically talking about how excited I am for, you, Xavier, and everyone else you guys have playing this year for like an Ivy League team, how excited I am to watch you guys play. I believe you have a game I'm in the Philadelphia area. I believe you play in Hagen Arena this year at St. Joseph, if I'm not mistaken.
We do. We went there last year. It was our first loss of the year.
Yeah, I remember.
We loved it so much. We have to come back again.
So yeah, I plan on being on that game, and I want to come to the game at the Palestra when you guys play UPenn. So I'm looking forward to watching you guys play in person. And yeah, that's sort of how we got acquainted. I wrote that article about Princeton. Your dad took a liking to it, followed me on Twitter, and that's sort of how Elliot and I got connected. But anyway, speaking of your father, your dad played football at Northwestern, mom played volleyball at Northwestern. Obviously, your brother played a year at UNC, and then he's now playing overseas professionally. Your brother's Alec Pierce on the Colts. And obviously, you don't need an introduction, obviously, even though I already sort of gave it. What's it like playing in like a sports family where like everyone plays a different sport, really? And like, did you play any other sports growing up, or was it always basketball for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up, basically from the day I could walk, sports was probably the focal point of my life. And growing up, I was always following around my brothers, and whatever sports they were playing, I was watching them play. And then when I got old enough, I started playing. I played pretty much anything: football, baseball, basketball, golf, tennis, like you name it, I played it. And so, yeah, I would go around and, I was always in the stands for their games. And so I kind of just realized, and as they got older, I watched them and how they developed and how they grew, and how hard they worked to get to the Division I level and beyond. And so I realized, what I had to do from a work ethic standpoint to get to the Division I level and succeed as well. So they're big inspirations for me, and I'm thankful to have them in my life.
So if it weren't for basketball, what sport would you be playing?
I'm a huge golfer.
Okay.
So I'd be a pretty serious golfer if I wasn't.
So I just went to a bachelor party for my fiance's in the wedding. So it was her college roommate's fiance, and he invited me to the bachelor party, and we went golfing. It was my first time like actually doing like a full 18 holes. I was awful, but it was my first time. Like I've been to like Top Golf before, but
for sure,
it's definitely a sport that it takes not only a lot of skill, but like I could see why you would like it if you're good at it, but it's also very frustrating to pick up, I feel like.
Absolutely. It's one of the most humbling sports out there. You can't perfect it, and every day is different, and every shot is different. So absolutely. Every shot provides a unique challenge, and I think that's why I love it, and why most of the world loves it too.
So let's talk about your basketball career then. Obviously, you grew up in playing high school in Illinois, and you end up, at Princeton, and you're still at Princeton. I mean, with how the transfer portal is nowadays, you don't see many people, sticking to one school. So sort of walk me through, like, your high school recruitment at Illinois, you end up at Princeton. Just kind of tell me what that's like. And, obviously you're still at Princeton, so clearly you're enjoying your experience there.
Sure. Yeah. So growing up, during my high school years, I would consider myself a little bit of a late bloomer. So, my sophomore year, junior year of high school, I had grown to be about 6'4", 6'5" by then, but I still hadn't grown into my body. So I wasn't, my foot speed wasn't there and my athleticism wasn't there yet. And also not to mention COVID struck going into my junior year of high school. So messed up a full year of AAU and recruiting for me. And so I'd like to think that I was a little under recruited coming out of high school, and Princeton was, one of the schools that believed in me. And I think that holds a lot of weight. And so, I've obviously had tremendous success the last 2 years. Freshman year, I was super spoiled making it to the Sweet 16. And, last year making it, winning the Ivy League regular season, and then winning player of the year as well. So I'm spoiled in that regard that I've had such a successful 2 years. But, like you said, the transfer portal, you can't avoid it nowadays. It's even touched into the Ivy League a little bit, which it hadn't before. And so definitely there's, you hear things, you see things on social media, but at the end of the day, I love Princeton, and they're one of the schools they're the school that believed in me the most coming out of high school. And I fell in love with it out of high school, and I'm still in love with the school and the team and the coaching staff. And I think it's just an all-around great fit for me. And I'm in a spot where I'm challenged, I'm pushed, and I'm given opportunities to, get better while being given like a little bit of a leash, being able to play through some mistakes. And I think that's huge for my development as a player. So I'm just, thankful to be here.
So there seems to be a theme with a lot, not just you, but a lot of guys, especially guys that I've had the opportunity to sit and talk with, in terms of like guys being under recruited and then becoming like focal points of the college teams. Like John and I have a great relationship with Trey Towson, who played at Oakland on that team that beat Kentucky, and now he's at Arizona. Same thing with Anthony Del Orso, was super under-recruited out of Australia, ends up playing at Campbell before he transferred to Arizona. J.J. Dennis is another one. He was our first interview, actually, when he transferred to Baylor. He was under-recruited, same thing, from Illinois, from the Chicago area. Yep. It's just crazy how, I don't know, how the whole recruitment process works, I suppose. And a lot of you guys who end up being super high-level players, even pro players, look at Damian Lillard and Steph Curry, for example. It's just a crazy concept to think about. Okay. John also said he is on his way in. He's on a hotspot. He lost internet due to the storm. So he'll be in momentarily. But let's take you back to your freshman year. Obviously, we talked about, before we started recording, the rise of the Ivy League, in a sense. And Princeton, your freshman year, ends up making it as a 15 seed in the NCAA tournament. We already know what happens when you play Arizona. We already know what happens. I think you played, what was the second game? Missouri, I think it was?
Missouri, yep.
Okay. So you guys end up making it to the Sweet 16. And, yeah, I mean, that Arizona game was incredible to watch. I mean, the way Coach Henderson was able to coach you guys, the way you guys were able to get up and play. And, Caden, you had the opportunity. You started, basically, your freshman year, your sophomore year, and now you're going to your junior year. So kind of walk me through what that's like being, the Cinderella in the NCAA tournament.
100%. Yeah, the March Madness as a whole, I mean, just making it there was a dream come true for myself and the team. And, we felt like we were, you grow up watching March Madness, and you see one shining moment after the tournament ends, and you want to be a part of that. And so having the opportunity to, play in March Madness, it was a dream come true. But at the end of the day, we weren't satisfied with just making it to March Madness. We knew we were a really special team and that we could do special things. And obviously we showed that. We knocked off Arizona in a hard fought, low scoring game. But I mean, I think we held Arizona, who was one of the highest scoring offensive teams in the country. I think we held them to 55 points or something like that, which just goes to show that, our defense was really solid. And all credit to Coach Henderson and the guys on our squad. It was, we were a hard-nosed team, and obviously we knocked off Missouri as well. But once we were in the Sweet 16, we really felt like we could, win 2 more games, 3 more games, and make it to the Final Four or beyond. And so when we did lose to Creighton in the Sweet 16, we were pretty bummed and upset. And I think that just showed our mentality and that we felt like we could compete with anybody in the country at that point.
And Caden, before we continue, this is John, my co-host. He's in the middle of the storm right now, so
hope you're staying safe out there.
Oh yeah, it's been crazy. The internet was out, trying to get connected, power's been flickering. So it's wild, but yeah.
So John, how about I finish with the final few questions and you do the full court press? Does that work for you?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. So again, we talked about the Sweet 16 run. Yale beats Auburn last year, and Auburn, according to Ken Palm, was like a top 5 team in the country. So obviously there's a rise in the Ivy League conference as a whole. I mean, again, I'm anticipating you guys winning the conference, but like, again, Yale is going to be good. UPenn's going to be pretty good this year. Like, the Harvard is always competitive. So, I mean, what do you think just overall sentiment of the Ivy League up as like a up and coming conference in the sport?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else the Ivy League can do the past 2 years to prove that we're legit. I mean, it's been Princeton to the Sweet 16 2 years ago, and then obviously Yale knocked off Auburn. Like, that's pretty good resume the last 2 years. So I think the Ivy League is continuing to gain respect, and I think it has a little bit of respect right now. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's a hard-nosed league. It's a league where the players are so smart that conference games are very, very difficult to score because the scouting reports are so good. The players understand the scouting reports, and it's a tough league, especially when you play 2 teams twice every time. That second time around, it's just a battle of heart and mentality at that point. So it's a tough league, and every game you need to go out there and give it your all. There's a lot of games that you can slip up, and every team in the league is competitive, and so I think that's what makes the Ivy League so special. Is there's only 8 teams and everyone's competitive, and you also not everybody makes the Ivy League tournament. So the Ivy League regular season is incredibly competitive, and I think by the time March hits, we're all playing our best basketball, and so whoever gets the opportunity to play March Madness is definitely not an easy out, and I don't think anybody wants to face the Ivy League team.
It's funny you mentioned the Ivy League tournament because there wasn't always an Ivy League tournament. I mean, as recently, your freshman year, I think, was the first year they did the Ivy League tournament, if I'm not mistaken. It used to be just the winner of the regular season got the auto bid. Which format do you think you prefer?
I mean, I do like the Ivy League tournament format. I do think it's really unique that only the top 4 teams make it. I think I like that just because the regular season means something more. Then you can't, lay an egg in a couple of games and expect to, make it to March Madness. But I think that the tournament's a good format. Whereas I've heard, Coach Henderson tells us stories about when, it was Princeton and Penn, and they were, tied, and they would play a playoff game because there was no Ivy League tournament, so there was no, determining factor.
Yeah.
But I like the Ivy League tournament, and I think it's really special that it rotates between the league and who gets to host it instead of being a neutral site. So while it doesn't have the typical, team logos on the court during that time, it still definitely gives a little bit of a home court advantage. My freshman year, it was at Princeton, so that was definitely helped us a little bit, just being able to sleep in our own beds leading up to that. So, I mean, I'm a fan of the tournament. I think it's a good format, and obviously it didn't go our way this past year, but I mean, we'll be back this year.
So that kind of segues into my next question. I suppose the final question I have for you before we get into a full court press, which is basically a few rapid fire questions we'll ask you to close it out. One, obviously you're coming off the Ivy League Player of the Year award, And I know the Blue Ribbon Yearbook is projecting you to repeat as Ivy League Player of the Year this year. So what do those accolades mean to you and the expectations for you to be able to do it again, given, we talked about you being under-recruited? And then what are just the overall expectations for the team this year?
Yeah, I mean, the accolades, I recognize them, I appreciate them, and I'm thankful that I get the recognition. But at the end of the day, I understand that basketball is not, it's way more than just a one-man show out there. My team is incredibly talented this year. We have a lot of good pieces, and last year as well. Myself, Xavier, Blake Peters, Dalen Davis, guys like that. We have a ton of talent, and, I'm expecting a big year out of us. But, I try not to put too much pressure on myself in terms of, individual accolades. I think I try to just, stay motivated. So over the summer, I, wasn't really thinking about repeating Player of the Year and whatnot. I was just, keeping my head down, grinding day by day, and whatever individual accolades come with, playing my best basketball, I'm content with that. And so, I'm thankful I'm in this position because I have such a supportive coaching staff and teammates that believe in me and want me to be the best player I can possibly be. And so, they put me in positions to succeed and ultimately win the Player of the Year. And so, this year I'm expecting a big year out of our group, and I'm excited for the opportunities we have ahead.
I'm excited to watch you guys as well. Okay, John, you want to get into the full court press? Do you have anything you want to add, since I know you came in a couple minutes delayed?
No, we can go ahead and get into it. I just appreciate you, Caden, coming on. This is,
of course, yeah.
I'm excited. I'm high on that Princeton team this year. You guys are going to be good. Come on. Yeah, so we'll ask the full court press questions, like Steven kind of alluded to earlier. It's just like a series, like 10 rapid fire questions. Some of them are about basketball, some of them are about life, some of them are kind of fun. So,
all right, let's do it.
This would be a good way to get to know you, since I had to hop on there late. But
all right.
So just to start off, what's your major?
I'm an econ major at Princeton.
Nice. What would you say is your favorite basketball memory?
Oof. It's got to be playing in the Sweet 16 my freshman year.
Who's your all-time favorite player?
I'm a Chicago guy, so Jordan and Derrick Rose. I mean, he retired yesterday, so I was getting a little nostalgic watching his retirement highlights.
Oh wow. What's something that most people probably don't know about you?
I played the piano for 7 years growing up. I guess that's interesting. I can't say I can still play it to this day, but I did back in the day.
Who would you say is your best NBA comp?
I'm not sure about comp. I kind of have I don't know. I feel like I'd play a little bit like Draymond Green, the way he played with the Warriors a couple of years back. Maybe that, yeah.
If there's no such thing as basketball, what would you be doing?
We were just talking about this earlier. I'd be golfing. I'd be a huge golfer. So
maybe playing the piano.
Yeah, who knows?
If you had a superpower, what would it be?
Oh man, I feel like I'd want to be able to go back in time or time travel, go forward and back. That'd be pretty elite.
Yeah. How did you choose your number?
Yeah, so I was always pretty small growing up. I wanted to be CP3, Chris Paul. I mean, Caden Pierce 3, so I chose number 3.
Oh, that's great. Who's the best player you've ever played with and the best player you've ever played against?
Oof. Best player I've ever played with. I mean, I might make people upset with this answer. I mean, in high school, I played with Braden Huff and Jaden Schutt, who went to Duke and Gonzaga. But I'll give it to Xavier Lee, my teammate. Yeah. And played against, man, a lot of good players. I don't know if I can name one specific player. That's tough.
Maybe who's your toughest guy you ever had to guard?
I remember I guarded back when I was a little, not as strong and not as developed. I guarded Jarris Walker in AAU, and I felt like just a little kid, just getting thrown around out there.
It's a big guy.
Yeah, no, it was not an easy matchup.
Yeah. All right, and finally, we probably got your answer on this, but LeBron or Jordan?
Jordan, definitely Jordan.
All right. Well, that concludes the full court press, man. I appreciate you.
Love it. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, Caden, we appreciate you taking the time to come on. Obviously, we're expecting big things from you, Princeton, Xavier, and the whole team, the whole program this year. So we appreciate you taking the time to, talk with us. I know the first day of practice is today, like you alluded to earlier. So we appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.